right, so RFK Jr. declares America declining birth rates a national security threat. And I'm going on Twitter and I see that people are like, okay, well, it's because of pornography. And it's only on Twitter. Like, if you go on Reddit, that's not what they're saying. If you go on YouTube, that's not what we're saying. But on Twitter, it's like this obsession that I think it started in 2023 or so. And I think it's like the scapegoat, so that politicians get to do something and pretend that they did without actually changing anything. And it's also to push for digital ID. But I still don't understand the mechanism. Look, I'm willing to be open-minded. I'm willing to listen to people. Like, explain to me the process that you believe causes a man who watches, like, let's say he masturbates to pornography twice a day, okay? How exactly does that prevent him from being in a relationship or having kids? I mean, the concept of dad porn magazine used to be a thing because a lot of dads had it, right? Like, you can still be married and you can still spank it to shit online. Like, I'm not recommending it to anyone, but I'm saying, like, it has been done through the human race, and I think it's a lot better than getting a mistress. But still, okay, fine, like, from a moral perspective, like, explain to me the mechanism through which you believe that a man spanking it is unable to have kids. Because, in my opinion, it's not men that are the ones that decide whether or not sex happens, it's the women. And according to statistics, like 80% of women have sex toys. So why isn't the conversation about that? You know, like, wouldn't that be a lot more of a problem? Like, if a woman can satisfy herself with a dildo in private, isn't she, like, less likely to want a man? I mean, if we're following the same logic, and by the way, I don't think that that's the case. Because I don't think, like, relationship is just about sex. Like, a relationship is a lot more than that. If you have a relationship just because of the sexual act, then you're going to get a divorce pretty fast, right? And so, no, I don't think, like, a dildo can replace a man. Just like I don't think a sex robot can replace a woman. I think, like, it's more than that. And I think, like, the reason for declining birth rates is actually a lot more complicated and, in fact, a lot more inconvenient than a lot of people want to admit. One of the main reasons that, and again, like, this is extremely controversial, but I'm willing to listen to opinions that disagree with me. One of the reasons for the declining birth rates is the lack of teenage pregnancies. Like, I said this in a lot of videos. It's a sad truth. It's something that is real, though, because if you look at countries with high birth rates, almost all of them have teenage pregnancies. And if you look at America in the past, when they did have high birth rates, the age of marriage was 16. And by the time someone was like 19 or 20, they would already have a job, a kid, and a car. I mean, that's what my grandfather did, you know, and his great-grandfather, and the great-grandfather that came before him. And if you look at, as I mentioned, like, third world countries, almost all of them, by the time they're 16, they already have kids. I'm not saying it's a good thing, by the way. I'm not encouraging it. And of course, like, there's also downsides with women being unable to give birth because they need C-sec, right? But when you look at the fertility rates, like, that increases fertility rates. And it does make sense, somehow. Like, if you look at teenagers, like, they're the ones that take risks. A teenager is more likely to go extreme skateboarding, cave diving, scuba diving, parachuting, right? Like, they're willing to do all of these crazy things that a 40-year-old will never do. A teenager is willing to take risks, so they're like, okay, let's have kids, we'll see what happens. A 40-year-old or even a 30-year-old is like, well, yeah, but, like, we got mortgage and we need to pay for his education. Which brings to the other problem of why Americans don't have kids, is the educational system. Like, the human race was not created so that people at a very young age, what is it, like 7 years old, right? Like, they're starting their education, and they're finishing their education after they graduated from university. University now is like a high school. Like, it's not something secondary, it's mandatory, right? Because if you don't have university and everyone else has it, you're a moron. You can't even be a janitor. Like, there's so many jobs that my parents used to be able to do without a university degree that now require for people to get a university degree. Like, the whole educational system is a grift. And people aren't going to have kids when they have university exams. And so you end up having kids at the age of like 35 or 39. And by that time, you may not even have grandparents to help you raise those kids. Like, the grandparents used to be very important, right? Like, you'd go to work, your spouse would go to work, but the grandparents would take care of the kids. But by the time you're 39 years old, the grandparents are probably really old. They may even be sick or they may even be dead. And so, like, all of these issues bring together. Now, another important aspect is the legislation in the United States. Although, again, I can't really blame it on that because, like, in Europe, we have low birth rates. And while it's the same thing with the education and people getting married too late, it's also with the fact that in America, the legislation is just mentally retarded, while in Europe, not so much. But still, it does contribute. Like, if the legislation is favoring the woman, almost in all the cases, right? And you have Chad, and Chad can sleep around with any woman that he wants without risking getting married, and then having the woman file a no-fault divorce and taking the kids and forcing Chad to now pay money so that the woman can date someone else, right? Like, that's beyond mentally fucked up. And not to mention, like, I found out that the courts also take a percentage of that child support. So, like, there is a financial incentive for the courts to always side with the mother. So yeah, that's another issue, right? Like the legislation. The infertility rate. The infertility rate is another issue that apparently Christians now on Twitter don't like it. I understand their moral argument, but sometimes, like, I'm sorry, if you're not a Christian, like, pragmatism has to prevail. There's a really high infertility rate in modern nations for many reasons. The microplastics may be one. I saw studies that blame infertility on microplastics, but it's also the food, right? Like greasy food, sedentary lifestyle, sitting around in an office all day, right? Lack of vitamin D, lack of sunlight. Like all of these together, the obesity, right? Like it's going to drive men infertile. And the older the man is, the less likely is that he's going to have good swimmers. And again, it goes back to the thing that we're having pregnancies way too late. Like, if you're having a kid in your 30s, it's way too fucking late. You're also, like, risking a lot of genetical conditions and genetical illnesses. Like, the older the father, the more likely it is for various syndromes to pop up. People don't discuss this for some reason, right? And it's really controversial. Like, in America, if a 18-year-old has a kid, it's a panic attack. I actually had someone on Twitter saying, well, how would you like it if your son got a woman pregnant when he is 16? In Romania, 16 is legal, right? And, like, if my son is 16 and she is 16, well, how would I feel? I don't know. Like, I hope they get married, and I would do my best so they have an apartment to live in. And then I would hope that he gets a fucking job and take care of his family. And in my opinion, like, that would be a much better outcome than him becoming like 35 years old. I don't get to see my grandchildren, right? Like, that's also another problem. And maybe at 35, he doesn't even find someone to get married. Or does get married and doesn't have kids, right? Like, it's not the end of the fucking world. Because, like, my grandparents, they also got together at around a similar age. So, in the West, in the Anglosphere, that's shocking content. That's like, oh my goodness, pedophilia, blah, blah, blah. But, like, in Europe, it's actually not so shocking, especially in Eastern Europe. Although, like, this is something that happens in the rural area. And if you look at the population, the fertility rates in the rural area, they're actually sustainable. Like, people actually have kids in the rural area, right? Even though they're having the lifestyle that is shocking Westerners. People in the cities, they live like Westerners and they have low fertility rates. Like, again, just because, like, it's uncomfortable, and I want to point it out, I'm not suggesting it or anything. I'm just saying, like, looking at the statistics, I'm noticing a pattern, and it is what it is. Another reason is that people who grow up in single households, they're also likely to only have one kid or 0 kids. This is something interesting. Like, people who grow up in households with many brothers, like if you grow up and you have like 5 or 6 brothers, you can't conceive the idea of having just one kid. Like, you want to have at least 5 or 6. Like, people want to recreate the way that they grew up. Meanwhile, people that grew up as a single kid, they find it suffocating to have more than one. And so, like, as you can see, it's not really simple to fix the declining birth rates, because there's like plenty of reasons why people choose not to have kids. And I've never seen a government like successfully manage to sustainably convince people to have kids. And by the way, it's not because of poverty. Like that's another dumb take. Because like in medieval time, people were extremely poor, and yet they had a lot of kids. During war or after war or even during famines, people still have kids. So like the idea, it's like, oh yeah, people aren't having kids because they're not having money. No. Again, like a 35-year-old would think like that, but an 18-year-old definitely not. Like an 18-year-old, they don't fucking care, right? Like if it's poverty, like the only thing that they have that's fun is making out and having sex. And so that's more likely to produce kids. People also blame the abortions. Like, I mean, the number seems high, but when you put it up for 350 million people, is it really, that of a significant percentage? I mean, like, without the abortions, would you manage to get the numbers up? I don't know. Like, I would have to check. Contraceptives is another one. Now the thing with contraceptives, like, it does sound reasonable, right? Like, it sounds, okay, well, if we don't have contraceptives, people will have more kids. But they tried that in Romania during communism. And turns out that if you actually do that, people will find naturalistic ways to do contraceptives. Like they would take a pig gut and use that as a condom. I'm not kidding. Like a goat intestine or some shit like that. Like if you deprive people from contraceptives, they will figure out things by themselves. And when the woman does get pregnant and she doesn't want it, she's going to try starving herself. She's going to try smoking or heavily drinking. Again, like this happened in Romania. I'm not talking out of my ass. So like banning it, I guess like it can raise it, but you're going to have like a high number of retarded babies, right? The best thing is to basically abolish welfare, but no one wants to do that. And it's also to fix the educational system. Like it's unacceptable for kids to go to an educational system when they're 7 years old and finish when they're 25. Like that's pretty much like institutionalizing them, like putting them in prison for that long. And it's like not as if like they're going to use even like 60% of the knowledge that they're getting, right? It's pretty much like taking them out of the workforce so that the unemployment doesn't look that bad. And it's also a grift, right? So that the university professors can have a job. But in reality, like, no one needs that much education, and no one uses that much education. So, like, if you want high birth rates, you gotta get rid of the welfare, you gotta get rid of the educational system, you gotta change the mindset that if someone gets pregnant at 18 years old and they're married, that's not the end of the world, right? The idea that grandparents need to get involved into raising the kid. And if you don't do that, well, eventually the welfare will collapse naturally. And when the welfare collapses, then the educational system is not going to be funded. And when that happens, well, things are going to fix for themselves, right? So it's not the end of the world. Again, take into account that humanity has been through wars, right? Like we had wars, we had plagues, we had half of the population dying during the Black Death, the Spanish flu. It's not the end of the world. Still, it is, yes, like it is a national risk, and I understand that RFK wanted IVF to be funded. Okay, fine, it is what it is, but it's not going to solve anything. And also banning pornography. South Korea has banned pornography. How is it working for them? China also banned pornography. How is it working? Like again, this is ridiculous. I don't understand the mechanism through which people believe that what men want is just to watch, right? Like if a man just watches, he is satisfied and doesn't need companionship. It's fucking weird. Let me know what you guys think though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.